Hey guys! So today we're going to be talking about data structures. It's the next point in our step-by-step walkthrough in the Python documentation. So one thing is to be relatively comfortable with lists, and the other thing is to know all of the methods that are actually available for you to use. And that's what we're going to be starting to look at right now. I am grabbing the methods, some of the methods, actually the grand majority of the methods available through lists. And we're going to be kind of like explaining what exactly do they do. And yes, thank you for being here. So for this, I'm actually doing a Game of Thrones reference in which our list consists of the names of the direwolves of the Stark family. And if I do append ghost, okay, let's print it first. And we see that we defined it to be, we're missing ghost here. So we're going to append it and then we're going to print it. And when you append an element to a list, it kind of like it's added to the list at the end of the list. However, you might be asking yourself, like, why should I use append and not only kind of like signal the position in the list that I want this element to be added at? So if I kind of like slice the list and say, I want to add this string or even ghost, like, let's do ghost. It's probably prettier. At the last, like, I signal up until the index that it's after the last element inside of the list, and then try to append it. This is what's really going to be happening. So if I do this and I print direwolves, here ghost is added as if each of the letters in the string it's its own element. That's not really what you're looking for, and this is why this method is so useful. We are not going to be covering extend because I'm not making videos of iterables yet. We're going to be getting to that later, and we're even going to go into depth about like what the classes are, etc., how to define a class, and I'm really trying to follow a step-by-step process in which we're very comfortable with all of the elements of Python before we go to more advanced levels. So extend is going to be covered then. Here, I'm going to talk about extend. No, I'm going to talk about insert. So it's the same idea. It's just like you can actually choose the point at which ghost is added instead of just putting it at the end. So if I wanted to do, let's say actually 0. Here we put the index, here you put the element. And I print direwolves, ghost is added at the beginning. If I wanted to have index 2, I do this. And there we go. It's at 0, 1, 2. So that's perfectly fine. If I want to remove ghost and I print it, I don't have ghost in the list. And pop is actually kind of interesting in the sense that it's a reverse append. So the same way that you appended an element to the list, when you use pop, you're removing it, and the method also returns to you the element that you removed, just so you're aware of what is it that you took out. If I don't put an element here, it's gonna return me the very last one, so it's gonna return me Shaggy Dog. And if I print direwolves again, Shaggy Dog is no longer in the list. If I do this again and I print it, Summer is on the list. But let's say that I don't want to necessarily take out the last one. I want to take out Lady. So I put the index at which Lady is located, and yep, we removed Lady. So that's really the use of pop. I'm gonna go over here and redefine my direwolves because I want to have them. So clear, fun. So clear basically removes all of the elements in the list. So if I print direwolves after I do clear, I get an empty list because I removed all of the elements from it. So I'm going to go ahead and redefine it as well. And index is just a way to kind of like have ask Python what's the index at which one of the direwolves or the elements is located. So if I want to know where is Nymeria, it's gonna tell me it's at position 2. It's if I ask where is Ghost, it's gonna, I'm sorry, I didn't append Ghost this time. It should tell me it's at the very end. Yep, position 5. If I do count, this might be misleading. So count, you're not really asking it like how many elements are inside of the list. You're asking it how many times does this element appear on the list. So if we had 2 ghosts, I'm gonna append ghost 2 times, and you're gonna see. So we have 4 instances of the name Ghost inside of our direwolves list now. And if I ask to count ghosts, it's gonna tell me 4. So it's just kind of like a way to see how many repetitions of one of the elements there are inside of the list. If I do reverse, I kind of like reverse the order of the elements. So I had them at the end before, and now I have the 4 instances of Ghost at the beginning of the list. So as you can see, one of the things that I thought was very useful from the documentation and worth mentioning in this video is that through append and pop, we can see that it's very easy to kind of like follow a first in, last in, first out methodology with lists, because you can easily append an element to a list and then just remove that last element that you appended. On the other hand, although you could easily also kind of like insert something at the beginning and pop it at the end, so it's more like a queue method instead of a stack method. Every time that you insert something at the beginning of the list, you have to I'm sorry. I'm definitely editing this part out of the video. But another thing that I thought very useful from the documentation, and I thought was kind of like worth mentioning, is that through the pop and append methods, you can see that it's very easy to follow kind of like a stack methodology in using your list. What I mean by this is that it's very easy to use a last in, first out. So I have a list, I add an element to the list, and then that's the first element I take out of the list in order to use it. Kind of like a FIFO versus LIFO kind of deal. On the other hand, even though you could do a first in, first out, in which you're not necessarily taking out the last element, but you're taking out the first element, so you can append an element and then kind of like pop the first index. So if I do a pop 0 over here, I would get the first element of the list. Like that would be generally relatively easy, or that's what we would think. However, the only problem with this is that every time that you pop the first element, you have to shift all of the elements in the list by 1 index. So this used to be 1, now this is going to become 0. This used to be 2, now this is going to become 1. This used to be 3, now it's going to become 2, etc. So you're shifting all of the elements in the list, and this can be kind of exhausting. Like it's going to take a while for the program to run it. It's going to take speed, it's going to take computing power. So in order to deal with this issue, the documentation actually suggests to use a module that's called collections deck, and to use the deck, which allows you to pop left and pop right more easily. However, we're going to be looking at different models once we finish the walkthrough of the documentation, and I believe as of now, collections.deck falls outside of the scope of the purpose of this documentation walkthrough, but you're more than welcome to check it out in your own time. Thank you for watching. See you next video.